we can transform your thinking, everything else in your life transforms. All of these behaviors you're struggling with, your relationship issues, all of that transforms because all of that thinking is really coming from these core beliefs that you have.
"83% of Americans identify as not very happy, which can hold you back and negatively affect your relationships and your business. On this podcast, we discuss the proven steps to happiness so you can restore balance and rekindle your joy."
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of How to Be Happy podcast. Buckle in because this one is going to be amazing. You're going to learn some stuff that you're like, really? Can that really happen? And we're going to prove to you that it really can happen. So, Tiffany, welcome today.
Hi, Brad. How are you? Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to being here today.
I'm amazing. I'm amazing every day. Life is so beautiful, so great. So we're going to jump right in. I understand that you've helped people solve complex issues, both mental and health issues, that therapy couldn't solve in years or decades using a process called Rapid Transformational Therapy. Is that true?
It is. It is. RTT is an amazing therapy. I found it myself because I struggled with anxiety, depression, irritable bowel syndrome, and going to doctors, going to therapy. I just wasn't getting the results I needed to be happy. So in seeking to help myself, I learned about the subconscious mind. And then I learned that the best way to access the subconscious is through hypnosis. So after gaining a victory myself, I wanted to train in this amazing method.
Okay, so we want to hear, like, how do you work your magic? What is it? What it is about? Does RTT do? I mean, I know the answer to that question because I do RTT too. That's where we met. We met a couple months ago at a training. You're one of the top trainers at RTT, Rapid Transformational Therapy. So we met there. So I knew it was the case, right? But let's tell you. So you've taken on people that literally went to therapy for 30 years, hours and countless hours, and you fixed them in 2 hours, 3 hours, right? They never need another session. Is that true?
Totally. It's a few week process because you have my sessions are 3 hours long. I'm very thorough. We dive into the subconscious mind to find the root cause. Let's use anxiety as an example. So if you have anxiety, your brain is not sending that anxiety for no reason. It's sending it because it thinks you're not safe. And the anxiety is produced within your mind to get you to take action. The problem is no one chooses anxiety. So if we knew what action to take, we would do it and our anxiety would go away. But sometimes that anxiety process was set in motion by something that happened to you in your past. So by finding that root cause, why did the mind come up with this anxiety to begin with? And we use RTT for that. We can neutralize and reframe that. And then that's why it's so powerful. That's why it can occur in a single session, because you're finding the root cause, you're neutralizing and reframing that in a way that the subconscious mind is going to respond to, so it doesn't have to continue to send that anxiety as it has been. Now, once we do that, we can start to change your current thinking and beliefs, okay? So as you know, Brad, happy people think differently than unhappy people who are depressed and anxious. When I had terrible anxiety, I thought entirely differently than I think now that I'm happy. So we want to shift that thinking from disempowered to empowered. And we're able to do that. We start doing that in your session, and then with RTT, we create a recording. You listen to that recording for 21 to 30 days. I usually do 30. And it's amazing. At the end of those 30 days, you've created new neural connections in your mind for different thought patterns and behaviors, the kind of thought patterns that you need to have in order to experience that peace of mind and happiness. And it's an amazing thing.
So why can't this be done in traditional therapy? Why does traditional therapy struggle so much with these concepts? And we can just use anxiety as a perfect example because you were on that.
Yeah. So I'll speak to my own experience in therapy. So I did psychotherapy for a number of years. I had a difficult childhood. My mom is a drug addict. So I had a difficult childhood, and there was a lot going on, a lot of reason for my mind to send anxiety. And I went to therapy for multiple years, different therapists. And generally speaking, in psychotherapy, there's a belief that just in talking with a therapist, you're going to work through a lot of these issues. So I would go in and I would talk, and the therapist and I would discuss where some of these things were coming from. And it was easy to see, I had some difficult things to deal with. Now, it's helpful to know where something comes from, but sometimes the root is actually deep within the subconscious mind, and the conscious mind's not able to access it. And then once you find out the cause, since I know, well, my anxiety comes from my difficult childhood. I knew that already, but it's a different thing to be able to neutralize and reframe that. And that's where hypnosis and other subconscious processes come into play. That's where we really can create change within the mind. And just a lot of psychotherapists and counselors just aren't trained in these methods.
Yeah. So the subconscious mind is responsible for what, 80-90% of our behavior on a given day, right?
Yeah, you're right about that.
So when you get pissed off because someone cut you off in traffic, or your kid spills something and you get really irritated, that's not your conscious mind saying, I'm going to get irritated. That is your unconscious mind going back to a point in your childhood, most likely, where something happened to you that created a bad feeling in you. And that is what's driving your behavior. And so what I found, because look, I'm a case study too. I went to therapy for 30 years. I went to countless marriage therapists for, oh my gosh, I mean, I don't know how many sessions I went, 50, 40, a lot, right? And all they want to do is focus on the symptoms in the conscious mind. They talk about like what's going on. Well, that wasn't what was driving my behavior. So after 30 years of going through the same thing, just like you're talking about, I went to this gentleman, an ex-Navy SEAL, and we went back to my childhood. The same thing we do here. He just didn't use hypnotherapy. He used another process of relaxation. And we accessed, okay, these bad things happened to me as a child. I came up with these untruths, like I'm bad, I'm not good enough. And then I lived with those for the rest of my life. And we did exactly what you talked about. We did a recording. And frankly, I have some clients that 60 days later are still listening to the recording twice a day because they're like, this is amazing. This recording, like I listen to it and I just get so relaxed and it's so uplifting. So anyway.
Yeah. And it's really about that shift you talked about.
What's that?
It's making that shift. It's making that shift. What you did and what we help clients to do is make that shift from that disempowered thinking that was established in childhood. Now, see, all that stuff was programmed in, because when you think about it, when you and I were born, we weren't born with anxiety, depression, faulty thinking. No, that was programmed in. You don't see babies worried about their fat rolls. You don't see babies worried about how they're going to pay for their future. These things we learn as we grow up. So anxiety and depression are learned behaviors. Now, that doesn't mean it's your fault. We don't choose that. Nobody wakes up and says, yeah, I think I'm going to have a really bad anxiety disorder. No one does that. So the good news is if it can be programmed in, it can be programmed out. And that's what people don't realize. So people will come to me and say, can you really help me in just 30 days? And the answer is yes, because what I'm doing is programming out the negative programming that's causing your issue, programming in the new. And it takes about 21 days to create new neural connections in the brain. That's why that recording is so vital. And you mentioned earlier, Brad, about somebody who's having an anger response. And this is how you know that you're being triggered from something in your past. So if you have a response, an emotional response to something that's going on in your life today, and looking back on that retrospectively, and you look back at that emotional response and you think, wow, that reaction was just way too much. It was disproportionate to the event that actually occurred. So your kid spills milk and you scream at them, or your spouse rolls his eyes at you and you fly into a rage and you're thinking, why did I react so strongly to something that now that I look back at isn't that important. That's how you know you're being triggered from the past, because you've got this belief built up within you. We'll use the example. If you believe that you're stupid and not smart because maybe you had teachers or students or your parents told you that. And so that belief is lingering deep in the subconscious. And then your spouse rolls her eyes at you, or his eyes, and says, oh, after you say something, it triggers that belief, I'm stupid, and you fly into a rage. And so what we do is we target those beliefs, because all of your behaviors and emotional responses, they're rooted in beliefs that you have within the subconscious. And sometimes you're not even aware of that. Like after I got divorced, I was in a religious cult for a number of years, and then I got divorced. And after that, I entered into an abusive relationship. And I was one of those women who thought, I would never be that woman who puts up with abuse. I thought I would never do that. And I found myself doing that. And I was teaching a fitness class, and I had a senior gentleman, and he's like, you know why? He's a very smart guy, very much into the subconscious mind. It's where I first learned about it. And he said, Tiffany, the reason why you're dating this man is because deep down inside, you do not believe you are worthy of love. And I said, that's BS. I said, I do too believe I'm worthy. He goes, no, you don't, because your behavior demonstrates your true beliefs. And I said, well, how can that be? And he said, because those beliefs are housed in your subconscious, and that's what's driving your behavior. And I thought, wow, I got to know more about this subconscious mind. And he invited me to some classes, and I went to them and thought, oh my gosh, everything I do now makes sense. And that's when I went on a quest. Now that I knew what the root cause of the problem is, I said, now I need to know how to access my subconscious mind and bring about healing. And I did 7 months of research, first discovering hypnosis, and then discovering the creme de la creme of RTT. And I was able to really start changing my life. And I moved out of, I was in the physical therapy profession. I moved from physical therapy to helping people primarily with anxiety, but I help people with all sorts of problems, even bedwetting and self-esteem, confidence issues, public speaking. The neat thing about Rapid Transformational Therapy is that everything that you're struggling with has a subconscious driver or a subconscious root cause, and you can locate that. And once located, it's a game changer for you.
So that's a mic drop moment right there. Every issue you have in your life is wrapped around a subconscious thought that you have. The problem is, until you get into hypnotherapy, you can't access that subconscious mind. So your feeling of not being loved or not being worthy of love, you didn't even know that. I didn't know that either. So if we were on this call this podcast 3 years ago, and you said, Brad, do you have self-love? Do you think I'm worthy of love? I'd be like, of course. And if you said, Brad, do you care if people, what people think of you? And I was like, no way. But now looking back after my transformation, all you have to do is look at your behavior. You got to look at your behavior and your results. So if you don't have self-love, I promise you that it's affecting every area of your life, your health, your intimate relationships, the way that you parent your children, your business. It goes on and on and on and on and on. So I'm like, I want to know, how can we figure out if we have self-love? So I developed a self-love quiz at 12 questions. It's on my website. It's completely free. bradchandler.com/quiz. Go take that quiz and see what you score, because you might be surprised, because if I'd have taken that quiz 3 years ago, I would have been shocked. And you have to look, all change begins with awareness, right? You can't change what you're not aware of. So if you're struggling with an area of your life, just like Tiffany said, it has to do with thinking in your subconscious mind that you don't even know about, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a proven process through RTT, Rapid Transformational Therapy. If you're suffering, that you don't have to suffer. Literally, she said 30 days. My program's 5 weeks. Her main session is 3 hours. And in 3 hours, I have seen radical transformation done on hundreds and hundreds of people that Tiffany and I have coached with. Like, it's just, It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So if you're sitting there suffering, I have people all the time on a daily, every day I put out a social media message, as you know, on happiness and love and freedom. I'm on every social media platform at bradchandler.com/contact. And I get people responding and they're like, it's too late. I'm too broken. What would you say? What would you say to someone who says it's too late or I'm too broken?
Well, this is interesting because I get people like that all the time. So I often get people who have tried everything. They've read books, they watch YouTube videos, they've gone to therapy, they're immersing themselves in personal development and they're still stuck. And they get, after you do that for a while, you sort of adopt a learned helplessness of feeling like no matter what I do, I don't get better. So obviously it's me. I'm broken. I'm hopelessly defective. That's particularly common in people with a lot of childhood trauma who've been to conventional therapy, because while I commend the fact that we now have trauma awareness. So before we had trauma awareness, people just were led to feel like, gosh, I have these bad behaviors because I'm a loser. Now we have trauma awareness. So we know, most people know, that my behavior is rooted in childhood trauma, but they begin to develop a trauma identity. And they feel so identified with their trauma and the brokenness, they don't see a way out. And so people come to me and say, well, I have this problem. I snap at people in relationships. I have this problem. I'm afraid of what people think of me. I have this problem. I have terrible anxiety about these 5 things. And I'm depressed about these 10 things. And it seems so overwhelming to them. And I say, actually, you only have one problem, just one. And that is your thinking. That's your only problem. And the thinking's not that hard to transform. And if we can transform your thinking, everything else in your life transforms. All of these behaviors you're struggling with, your relationship issues, the depression, the anxiety, all of that transforms, because it's all those behaviors, all of that thinking is really coming from these core beliefs that you have.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Every single problem you have in your life comes down to one thing and one thing only: your thinking. Think about that for a second. Every problem, your bad relationship, your weight, drinking too much wine at night, fighting with your spouse, shitty business, on and on and on and on. Everything comes down to your thinking, but you don't wake up in the morning thinking these thoughts because they're buried in your subconscious mind. So all this crazy behavior that you do, or your spouse does, or your children do, they don't even know why they're doing it. We help you find out exactly why you're doing it so you can turn it around. Remember, all change begins with awareness. If you can tell, I'm a little passionate about this stuff because, Tiffany, just like you, I suffered. And now I've gone through this transformation and my life has changed so radically. And I see people, I see relationships, I see everything in a different light. And this is why, I do podcasts all the time. This is why I do a daily message, because I want the world to know you can have what we have, and that's freedom. And you only get freedom through self-love and self-compassion. There's no amount of money, no job, no cruise, no boat, no nothing that will ever give you freedom except self-love. And the only way you get self-love is to figure out these crazy, silly, untrue thoughts that you had, that your brain developed as a child, as it should have, but they're just not serving you now. And when you make that shift, everything changes.
Yeah, you're so right. You're so right. And I've lived it. I've experienced it. I've watched hundreds of clients experience that. Because what we don't realize is that people with anxiety and depression have core beliefs. We all have core beliefs. So when you switch from the core beliefs that are leading you into anxiety and depression, and you make that switch into the core beliefs that bring you happiness and peace, that's the game changer. That's where freedom is found. If you've ever heard the saying, you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. And I tell my clients all the time, if you're not free, you don't have the truth, meaning something you're believing in your mind is keeping you from that freedom. And so what we do is find those beliefs. And I also believe there's some real important core beliefs that lead to happiness. And I teach those. I have a 9-week online course, and that's what it's designed to teach. A lot of people come to me, they start with that 3-hour session. Let's get rid of the big stuff. And then they want to work proactively in their minds to locate any other limiting beliefs that are going to hold them back in the future. But also let's find those limiting beliefs and let's replace them with the core beliefs that lead to you having peace of mind. Like, for example, I'm going to give you one of them. Okay. Every problem has a solution. Now, that's very simple. And as soon as I say that to people, a lot of them balk and go, oh, yeah, well, let me tell you about some of my problems, because they don't have a solution. You know, my son is 18 years old, and he has a genetic illness called osteogenesis imperfecta, or brittle bone disease. So no amount of positive thinking is going to change that for my son. He still breaks bones. Okay. So when you can't change something externally, because it's an unchangeable, the thing is, you can always shift internally. Because if you think about what's in your life that's making you unhappy, you can always find that person who is living that same circumstance, but they're happy. And if you think about, what do I really want to be happy? And you say, I would just be happy if I had that right relationship. I would just be happy if I could get that career position, if I could buy that car. Once I graduate from college, we all have that list. But I guarantee you, if you have a mind that is continually pointing out that your life is never enough, that you are never enough, you'll get that next goal in your brain and go, yeah, but see, now you need this, or you need to be better here because you're still not enough. So happiness and peace of mind do not come from attaining anything outside yourself. It all comes from within. It all comes from within. And that's what we need to learn. So the shift has to occur not by you rearranging all these external things so that you can find what you think you really want, which is the new car, the new house, the new man. Okay. You will make all those shifts. And if you haven't shifted in here,
doesn't matter.
You're not going to be happy. And that's why we see so many famous movie stars, so many magnificently rich people, and they're still profoundly unhappy. And until we get that concept in our minds, people spend their entire lives and then they pass away pursuing happiness, and they were never even on the right path.
Yeah.
They had it all along. They had it all along, and they didn't access it. So it's about accessing that.
Yeah, it says across the screen right now, you have all you need to be happy right now. And if you don't believe that, it's just another untruth you're living in. And the reason you're suffering is because you're living in the untruth. You cannot suffer in this world if you live in the truth. And what is the truth? The truth is that you are enough. You always were enough. You always will be enough. And you are enough right now. Something happened to you in your past that led you to believe you weren't enough. Your brain programmed that in. I did a video, my daily video, at bradchandler.com/contact, where I put all my social media platforms. I did a video and I took it right from what Marisa said. I quoted Marisa. Marisa said she has worked with Marisa Peer, who we study under, says she has worked with thousands and thousands of addicts. And she says she has never, ever, 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 ever come across one addict that felt like they were enough. So everything, Marisa says there's 3 things wrong with people in life that drive their bad behavior and their unhappiness. The feeling that I'm not enough, the feeling that I don't belong and can't connect, and the feeling that I can't get in life and never will be able to get in my life. So some people have all 3, some people have 1. But all of those 3 things, guess what? They're all untruths. None of us don't belong. None of us aren't enough. And none of us can't get what we really want out of life. Everyone can get what they want out of life. So those things are all untruths. So if you're listening to this and you're suffering, start asking yourself every second or every time that you suffer, is what I'm thinking the truth? And I promise you, every single time it will be like, no, that is not the truth. So the truth shall set you free. man, I'd heard that for my whole life, but it wasn't until I went through my transformation that it hit me over the head, because it did set me free. Like, I am a free man now. I can be who I am without fear of people judging me. I can speak my mind, and it is a beautiful, glorious thing.
It sure is. It sure is. It's a wonderful thing. And, one of the things people just get in their head that this freedom is not available to them. So you talked about feeling, these three things, these three root causes, these three beliefs. I'm not enough, I'm different, and I can't connect. And what I really want and need is not available. And you could understand how people develop these beliefs, because if you're growing up and you were always told you're not enough, you felt different. And it's funny because the people that feel the most different are often the most powerful, but they don't know it. I've had teenagers. It seems like the really sensitive and highly intelligent teenager is often the one that suffers the most from anxiety and depression, because they feel like they don't fit in. They just seem to think differently. And they think differently because they're really intelligent. And I find so often when I see a teenager with really bad anxiety, that they're actually have a very high IQ. They're very intelligent. They might not even do good in school, so they don't know they're intelligent, because people learn differently. And so I find that they're very intelligent, but they are telling themselves, I'm stupid, I'm weird, I'm a nerd, because maybe that's what they heard at school. But the truth is that can shift. That can shift to where they understand their true value and worth. And that's the problem for so many people. You can't love yourself. Well, you can, but you don't love yourself because you do not see your true value and worth. Your mind is playing that recording that you learned in childhood that says you're not enough, so you're weird, something's wrong with you, you're stupid, you're never going to find love, you're not worthy. It's playing in your subconscious mind over and over and over. Now, how that really affects us is, even if you say, well, Tiffany, I don't really have bad anxiety, I don't struggle with depression, so I don't know, is this for me? But when you think about it, your thoughts determine the entire trajectory of your life, your beliefs. So, when you're trying to move forward in your career, if you don't believe you have what it takes, I went from being the kind of person that thought I was destined to be a failure to the kind of person that realized I can do anything I set my mind to, because I'm just as good, just as capable, just as competent as anyone out there. Now, there may be things I don't know and skills I don't have, but I can learn them because I'm smart. And if you don't believe those things about yourself, you're always going to struggle with confidence, because even if you master the arena in which you now abide, if you're going to challenge yourself at all in life, move forward in your career, if you're going to move forward in any kind of challenging thing, like you're going to start working out and losing weight and gaining skills in different areas. When you go to do that, it's a challenge. And that's when these beliefs that we have start bubbling to the surface. We thought we were pretty confident, but now once I got put in this new career position, I have to stand in front of 200 people and do presentations, and I feel like I can't do it. That's when you see this stuff rising to the surface. And what do? We start dealing with these painful negative emotions by, I'm just not cut out for this. I don't like this job. I don't want to do it. Or we just grunt through it in terror, and we can't sleep the night before our presentation. But you can actually bring your belief system in alignment, because you become what you believe. So if you believe you're stupid, you're going to act stupid. If you believe you're worthless, you're going to choose relationships where the other party is treating you like you're worthless. And this is why so many women continue to date men who are abusive, derogatory, critical, or just don't pay them attention and give them the love they need, because they don't believe they deserve love or they're worth loving.
Yeah, and
if you ask them, Brad, just like you said, they'll say they're mad. They're like, I keep getting all these men who treat me like crap. I deserve better than this. Do they really believe that? They don't really believe that, because they're still choosing these sorts of men. And men who are predatory, it's like they have this radar. And as they're looking through their dating pool, they're not picking the strong, confident woman. They can sort of, I don't know how, they can sort of sense the energy of someone who has these deep subconscious insecurities. And so if you spend your life feeling like you're a doormat and you keep getting re-victimized, it's usually your subconscious beliefs. So it is your subconscious beliefs at the root. At the root of that. And shifting those makes you attractive to a different kind of man and unattractive to that man. Because now when he meets you, he can sense that confidence and he's like, nope, this woman will not let me abuse her like I want. No, he's not saying that consciously because his behavior is also driven by his subconscious.
Yeah, I say this all the time. When you're unwhole and you feel not worthy, you never go meet a worthy whole person. You always go meet an unwhole person, and then you have unwhole offspring. Because if you're unworthy, your kids are going to be unworthy. Or at least have behavioral or some type of issues. So if your children have issues, have behavioral issues, problems in school, the first place to look is the parents. Tiffany, we have got to wrap up. That was amazing. So you've got a course, you coach people, you've helped hundreds of people change in literally hours. Your program's 30 days. So I want you to end by telling people, how do they contact you? And then just like wrap up everything with a bow and give like the most powerful, like just tell people like that, how they don't have to suffer or how life can be different.
Okay, so I can be contacted at Tiffani Cappello, Tiffany with an I.com. That's my website. I'm also on TikTok. I don't post as many videos as I would like, at Transformed Women Academy. And on Instagram at the same. So basically, if you're interested in learning more about what I do, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to set up a free consult and discuss how changing your subconscious mind can help you shift, because that's really where it lies. It's about shifting internally. So what I want people to get in their mind is that stop looking at all this stuff out here. Stop trying to rearrange all of these pieces of your life to try to find happiness and peace. That's what we keep doing. And you will do that literally until the very end of your life, until you make that shift and say, okay, I've got to shift internally. I've got to look at my beliefs. And that's right. You have all you need to be happy right now. And it's there. It's already there. So it's not that you don't have peace and love and joy. One of the things I teach in my program, you have peace, love, and joy. You possess them right now. You're not experiencing them because you are caught up in this world of thought. And those are the thoughts programmed in your mind. And as long as you remain up here in this world of programmed thought, you're not going to have access. So let's make that shift and find the peace of mind that already belongs to you once you are able to access it.
Yeah. So amazing. You have everything you need to be happy. The only thing that's keeping you from happiness and joy and peace and tranquility and freedom is your thinking. So if Tiffany or myself can help you reprogram your thinking through a proven method, reach out to us. And if you like the podcast, please share it. Please subscribe to it. Please rate it. Please like it. And we will be back for another episode. Till next time. Thanks, Tiffany.
Thank you very much, Brad.
Hit subscribe if you don't want to miss out on more life-changing content. And if you're struggling, you don't have to. Go to bradchandler.com/contact. There, you can join the Facebook community of like-minded entrepreneurs, and you'll see a button to schedule your freedom and happiness call. See you on the next episode.